Hi everyone, I am here with the Reverend Amy Birchhausen, who is the Director of Care and Counseling here in the St. Louis area. Care and Counseling is one of the ministries that we support, and it is to Care and Counseling that our Easter offering for 2020 will go. So Amy, thank you for being here with me today in this strange and altered way of communicating with our congregation for now. I'm glad you're here. Tell us about Care and Counseling.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Well, Care and Counseling is 53 years old, almost 53 years old, and we've been closely aligned with the Episcopal Church, Episcopal Diocese for that whole time. So we're really grateful for this connection we have, and grateful to Emmanuel for its support and the support of its members throughout the years. Our biggest thing we do is therapy, psychotherapy. I always talk about our mission in three ways. I say we do three things, three ways. The first one, and by far the largest, is our mental health counseling. So we enhance emotional, relational, and spiritual well-being. Those are the three things we do by our psychotherapy, our training program, and our clergy and congregational care program.
Okay.
The biggest part is really the therapy part. Last year we served over 1,500 people.
Wow.
Unduplicated, these are not people,
Wow.
That's not how many times they came. And we delivered over 18,000 counseling sessions. So that's a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And the thing that makes us, I say it's our special juice, our special sauce, our secret sauce, is that, first of all, they're licensed professional counselors, just excellent clinicians, and we help people integrate their own spirituality and faith in their emotional work. And we've always done that. That's part of what's always made us unique, and it helps people integrate their deepest held beliefs with what's happening in their lives and their healing. And there's all kinds of studies that show that's the most effective way for therapy to work. And what we know is that if we don't help people who want to put that together, they might go home feeling like they have higher self-esteem, but they might go home to a theology that says, God will never forgive me. So all that therapy will eventually erode if they still have this underlying ultimate belief. Now, not everyone who comes to Care and Counseling is interested in that, our secret sauce, but that's okay. They're still welcome, and they still come to us for a reason, and I think it's because they trust us.
Absolutely. Well, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about not only the impact on those, how many, 1,500 clients, but then, the next circle out, the 4 people they share their house with, or the 2 people they share their office with, and just the ripple effects of that well-being that you foster at Care and Counseling, and what an amazing impact on the community that has.
Yes, and the other way that's absolutely true, and the other way I like to look at that is the generational impact. So we know that when a parent or some adult in a kid's life gets healthier themselves, it has a generational impact that goes forever. Just like trauma in a family, especially untreated trauma, can also have a generational impact on folks. So yes, I like to think about it this way, but I like to think about it this way too.
Nice. So all dimensions, very, very impactful ministry. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the question I was supposed to ask you that I can't remember. Tell us how we can support Care and Counseling. That's what I wanted to ask, and I think that's what the congregation wants to know. How can we support you?
Well, just your trust in us is so important. Your confidence in us is so important. Referring your friends and family and yourselves. And of course, financial support. I'll just tell you a little bit about why we need financial support.
Yes, please.
If you look at the financial spectrum of who we take care of at Care and Counseling, we have folks at both ends of the spectrum. So we have folks who are literally some of the most influential citizens of St. Louis on our caseload, and we have literally some of the most vulnerable citizens on our caseload, and everything in between. including the biggest hunk in the middle, which are those who need to utilize their insurance for our care. And St. Louis is a very private practice market. So it's hard to find therapists like ours who work the way we do, that in-depth work, who take insurance.
Oh.
And that's because insurance doesn't pay very well.
Right. Right.
So in order for us to keep, our big commitment is to access to care, so that people who want us, who need us, we'll say we can say yes to. So that desire to take insurance means we don't get enough reimbursement, even from insurance, let alone those folks who are at the lower end of the spectrum financially.
So one way that our financial support of care and counseling helps you is that it kind of fills in some of the gaps where insurance might but doesn't, and that allows you to give a priced for people's ability to pay.
Right.
Okay, so that fills in some of those gaps.
And actually, when we ask for support from churches, all of the church money goes to our client assistance fund. And that's specifically for folks at that lower end who are low income and uninsured. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot more of those folks than you might imagine. Yeah. And so when Emmanuel supports us, that money goes right to our client's assistance fund, which helps those folks at the lower end.
Okay. Now you were telling me just before we got on tape here about a new program that was begun that you were piloting, but now with the advent of COVID-19 has just exploded. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
You bet.
Sure.
So I think it was about 6 months ago or 8 months ago, I'm not really sure. The Episcopal bishop came to us and said, Amy, we want to help our clergy. We want to give them access to care and counseling's great care, but they live 2 hours away. Would you consider doing some telehealth or video therapy? And I said I would be happy to. Unfortunately, that's a pretty expensive leap to take for us, and we live pretty close to the bone. And the bishop said, well, how about if we helped you? He said, what would it take? So thanks to the Episcopal Diocese of Missouri, we started a 5 clinician pilot. Well, you may have heard of COVID-19.
Tell me about that.
So this small pilot of 5 clinicians, we now have to move right up to all 25 of our clinicians very quickly. So a
5-fold increase immediately.
Yes. And and the things we were going to live into and figure out as we moved along now have to be completed and ready to go. So next Tuesday, we're going to be going live with our video therapy program, and it's a very expensive endeavor. Especially the startup is quite expensive. After the startup, it's not so bad, but all of our therapists have to be certified in it, and all those. That's a course for every clinician to take, and we don't really have all of the equipment we need to do this. And we don't have all of the IT infrastructure at Care and Counseling to do it. But we're really committed. We're going to do it no matter what, and we'll just we walk by faith and not by sight.
Amen.
And we'll just hope that people want to support that work, so that all of our clients who really need this, especially in this time, can still have their therapist to talk to, either on the phone or through video capabilities. That was a no-brainer. We didn't say, oh, can we afford to do this? We're like, this is what we're called to do. Our therapists are all completely on board. It's really a powerful thing to be a part of these people who care that much.
Wow. That's really beautiful. Really beautiful. And we are fortunate in this community to have you here and be part. And so I know over this last week in particular, I've had a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of anxiety, but it's been stressful as each day we just get different news, and it just seems to change sometimes by the hour in terms of what's happening with relationship to COVID-19. Do you have some
I do.
Do you? Well, imagine that.
This was put together by one of our therapists, Deidre O'Laughlin. I'm just going to give a shout out for Deidre.
Hey, Deidre.
She's fabulous. And she put together a whole list of things that are helpful, and it's really centered on St. Louis as well. So I'm pretty sure there'll be a link close to this video somewhere for folks to access it.
Okay.
But one of the things, and you may have seen this in other things, is if we all have to stay home, would be to structure your days. So get dressed, take your shower, do things that will give you some structure to your day, so you can plan the day before. You don't feel like you're quite as adrift, right? We know that routine structures anxiety, so it's really structure binds anxiety. So we're really important to have
structure binds anxiety.
Yes.
That's a really important thing to remember.
Yeah. And that's why routines matter. That's why if you just think about young children, right? They do so much better if they know what their routine is and they can follow it. And some kids can veer from it more easily than others. Some kind of get panicky if the structure changes, but structure is just a helpful thing for all. It just grounds us.
Absolutely.
And how many spiritual practices are very structured, have a regimen to them, and again, they ground us. So it's just universal.
That's wonderful. So just to remind the congregation, of course, to help you with that structure, we'll have worship every Sunday morning at 9:15. So those of you who are here on a regular basis, and even those of you who aren't, it doesn't matter. Come on in, tune in at 9:15 Sunday mornings. Every evening at 7:30, we'll be leading Compline, which is another structured spiritual practice, and I just welcome you to take Amy's advice and step into at least those two things as part of your day.
Yeah, really. And that's the other thing that Deidre doesn't have in here, but is our own spiritual practices. And those are grounding for us all the time, and we need them even more. And my own spiritual practice is centering prayer, or a type of meditation. And that's so meaningful to me right now because it quiets me when everything in the culture is saying,
whip up.
Yeah, like my husband and I decided, my husband and I have half decaf, half regular coffee every day. Yeah. He said, I'm going to cut back on the regular coffee. I don't need it.
Oh.
Because we're already, we can feel our nerves getting up without the caffeine. We don't need so much caffeine.
Absolutely.
So centering prayer or any kind of devotional reflection helps us take a deep breath and remember that we walk by faith and not by sight. Can you tell us my mantra these days?
That's a great mantra. Well, and I was with a group of clergy via Zoom just a little while ago today, and we were talking about that discipline and that practice of just staying in the present. That so easily we whip out 2-3 days or weeks ahead, and there's nothing we can do, but let's just stick with what's right in front of us. And that's a kind of spiritual practice too.
It is, and in kind of a funny way, this virus is making us do that, because if we plan like 4 hours ahead, it'll be
different. Exactly.
It'll be a moot point.
Exactly. So enforced mindfulness is what we've got. Right. Thank you, COVID-19. Right?
Yeah, right. You have to have humor, and I believe that God often breaks into the absurd. And so
I think you're right.
Every time something absurd happens and we laugh, I think, oh, thank you, God.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let me get to a few of my other things.
Oh, please, yes.
For parents, Deidre has a lot of links in here for parents for activities to do with your kids if your kids are suddenly at home. And I know so many parents who they're working from home and their children are at home, and just that whole balance is so hard. A simple thing on this list is maintaining sobriety. So it's easy for those of us who don't struggle so much with addiction and alcoholism to think, oh yeah, I'm gonna, drink more. But it's just another way for us to stay calm. That's not to say if you don't have this concern, you can't drink. But if we do have a concern around alcohol or other substances, just remember to stay grounded again in whatever process keeps us grounded through that.
Okay. Good word.
Another thing is just to watch how much we stay glued to the news and social media. And this is particularly difficult. This is always our advice in any kind of a disaster or a tragedy. It's always our advice. It's particularly difficult in this one because the news changes so quickly. The actual guidance from our leaders changes so quickly. But again, that disconnect needs to happen, and we need to take care of ourselves. And I understand. I mean, that's something I have to do myself, which is to break away and to trust that I'll learn what I need to know an hour from now, 2 hours from now.
So to sort of put a little fence around that cell phone or that computer screen and say, as part of my structure of my day, I'm going to give myself this hour free of media.
Yeah.
Okay. Good word. Good word.
Yeah. Exercise. There's what the other interesting thing about this virus, I'm just excited about it, I guess, is how many things are becoming free online. So there are all kinds of exercise programs and routines that people used to have to pay for. Last week you had to pay for. This week they're saying residents, including a local St. Louis public Facebook around this, a Facebook group. And then of course, if you have a therapist or you need a therapist, knowing that even if we go into what's called a lockdown here, care and counseling is considered a part of essential services, and we're going to be there, especially with help.
As you always are.
As we always are. And so.
Okay. Well, Amy, thank you so much. I know coming over here to do this took some time out of your day. We wish that we could have been with you face to face on Sunday, but I've told the congregation when we're past this, we're going to have a great big resurrection service, and we'll find a way for you to be face to face with the congregation again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. All right.